Welcome to today's podcast, which is our research focused Monday of the month. And today's research is going to focus on colorectal cancer research. It's very important. And our guest today is Allison Rosen, who's here with us, who has a wealth of research experience and is also a colorectal cancer survivor and several other titles. Along the way, let's see, former Fight CRC ambassador, current member of the RATS program, which is our research, advocacy, training, and support. A mouthful for Fight CRC. But so happy to have you on the podcast.
So excited to be here to talk about everything.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you have an extensive background in research, including 12 years in basic cancer research. What made you decide? I'm very curious, having this extensive background, what made you decide to apply for the RATS program?
Yeah. So I worked in research for a long time, and then I pivoted to a sort of more public health
Mm.
career, but I still loved research. And I also wanted to learn more about colorectal cancer research because I worked in blood cancers, stem cell biology.
Yeah.
Again, amazing field, amazing researchers that do great work. But I really wanted to learn more about colorectal cancer. So I wanted also to do it with, a group of people that were like me, survivors, patients, caregivers. So I could learn from, again, leading experts in the
Yeah.
field and know more about what was going on, because when I was in research, I had more time to read journals and keep up to date on what was going on. With RATS, it's a great program that they help teach you a little more about research advocacy, but also bring in experts that talk to you about all the advances and things that are going on in colorectal cancer.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah, I was wondering kind of like what makes the program unique
Yeah.
compared to other, because you think, okay, research training program, like they're going to teach me how to go do a study
Yeah.
myself and that type of thing. So what makes this particular program unique,
Well,
do you think?
besides being focused just on colorectal
Yeah.
cancer, I think the wealth of knowledge that they bring in so many experts to talk about different things, and rarely do you have access to someone like that dedicated for, like, 12 or 20 of us rats to be able to ask them whatever we want and create relationships with. Beyond that, you get to go to conferences and learn from leading experts, and then on top of that, they help guide you as far as panels and help to review grants and
Wow.
be the patient voice for a grant application or for a clinical trial or whatnot. So there's a lot of different avenues. So no matter where you are in your knowledge as far as research, you don't have to be like me and have a ton of experience. You don't have to have any experience in research, but ultimately the idea is to learn, want to learn.
Yeah.
And I found with young onset, a lot of young onset people do their own research. They dive right in and they try to figure out what is the best treatment for them and their own best advocate. So it's also an opportunity, again, for me to learn from others as far as how they got their knowledge, so I can help guide other people to help get their knowledge there too.
That's very, very cool because I think sometimes for people, especially outside of the health field, research is daunting.
Yeah.
The idea of it. So I just love the idea that you have a program like this to be a part of. And it's also very interesting. And I think it'll be very interesting to other people who are listening that you came from this research
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think like, oh, you have that research background. So like, why would you,
Yeah.
choose? You're very busy.
Yeah.
Busy lady, why would you choose to dedicate time to this? And so it makes complete sense because not all research is
Yeah.
equal, as
It's
we all
oh
know, and it's
yeah.
totally different areas. So it's a brilliant idea. And to your point about advocacy, I want to talk about that. A lot of people think about advocacy in terms of like political advocacy or health policy advocacy, but I don't think they think about research advocacy.
Yeah.
So if you could talk a little bit about that aspect of
Yeah.
this program.
I mean, research advocacy is just as important as all the others. All advocacy is important, but really focusing on the research and what's important. So if you are doing policy advocacy, you have the background in research and you can explain to somebody that might not have the background why it's important to fund research, why it's important to have the patient voice included in research. So research advocacy focus a lot on like what's going on currently, what are the advancements, and you get to help lend your voice to help make sure it's patient centric. The patient perspective is all patient, survivor, caregiver perspective is always so important. So research advocacy really is focused on the science behind, you know, the etiology of colorectal cancer, but also the advancements in prevention, early detection, treatment, and surveillance.
No, that's very, very interesting to hear, and it's true. All of those things are so incredibly important for people to be advocating and spreading that word. And in terms of that, you're hearing all the time about all different types of research that's happening, and there's a lot happening,
Yes.
and so to kind of sort through the millions, right, of studies and things, what are 3 things that are on your radar
Yeah.
that you think today's fellow millennials should be aware of when it comes to colorectal cancer research?
Yeah, I think as far as, like, screening and
Mhm.
prevention and all that, I love seeing the blood tests that are coming out.
Yeah.
There's so much research behind that. There's a lot of people that will not do a stool test, and
Mhm.
and so a blood test is a way to catch m millions of people that might not
Mhm.
get screened, so I think a lot of companies are working on blood testing. I would also say targeted therapies. So, I mean, you want to have the best treatment for you and your type of tumor. So, you're having genetic testing. If you have a mutation, you
Mm.
don't have a mutation. If you have 3 mutations, there's so many different mutations in colorectal cancer. And now with targeted therapy and ctDNA testing, you can target the specific mutation you have in your tumor and have the right treatment for you. So, you won't have to do you're not throwing all the chemotherapy in the kitchen sink anymore. You're really giving the person the chemotherapy that's best for them. So targeted therapy, ctDNA, which also includes like immunotherapy, all of that is sort of bucketed into another one. And then I think I would say a lot of the surveillance tests. I
Mhm.
mean, MSEDS is something that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, I was
Um,
asking it. We try with our acronyms, yeah.
multi-cancer, um, multi-cancer screening early detection test.
Okay,
So this
okay.
is a test that will pick up multiple different types of cancer.
Oh, wow.
So the sensitivity and specificity, like how good it is, essentially,
Yeah.
they're working on trying to make sure it's equal to a screening test or a surveillance test that's just for one cancer. So, when you have colorectal cancer or any type of cancer,
Yeah.
you're at higher risk for other cancers. So these MSEDs that are coming out or the research that's being happening
Mm.
surrounding them will give someone an opportunity to look to see, oh, and do I have is there any markers related to lung cancer, anything markers related to, prostate cancer or cervical cancer that potentially pops up. So MSEDS is another whole field that a lot of pharma companies are trying to work on to, again, help
Cool.
people long term.
No, that's really great, and most millennials are into prevention,
Yeah.
right, as a whole, so the idea of having tests like this in our tool belt is really, really cool.
I mean, we just have to get it through so that
I
the
know.
insurance will cover it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's why
The
policy advocacy is
challenge
so
important, right?
combine
Exactly.
research advocacy with policy
Policy
advocacy,
advocacy.
or you make it happen.
Exactly, exactly, no, very true. And what would you say you're most hopeful or excited about, when it comes, to the future of research in the colorectal cancer space?
I would say I'm most hopeful about being able to pick it up and prevent it as early as possible. And, once hopefully these tests are readily available, I'm hopeful that hopefully they'll be available for people earlier than age 45 so that we can prevent colorectal cancer before it even happens because there's only a few cancers that are preventable through screening. And so, I mean, I think there's a lot of a lot of the treatment options that I've talked about in the trials and whatnot, but I do think my goal and everyone's goal is prevention and early detection. So if we can get that accessible
Yeah.
to people earlier on, then we can potentially save lives. And that is why I got involved in advocacy to help save lives.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, that is something I'm also very hopeful about as you tell me about the different research that's out there and this focus on prevention and
Yeah.
spreading that awareness of the prevention, but,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
sharing all of this with
Of
us.
course.
Extremely interesting, and I think a lot of people will, may not have realized about the tests that are being done, and say it again, I know it's a mouthful.
MSED, so
MSEDs.
multi-cancer early detection test.
Multi-cancer early detection tests. About those, I think are definitely, a lot of people are gonna say, I hadn't thought about that. I've heard different things in the news, different trends. I want to look into this for the future, and that's very exciting to be able to prevent early. But thank you so
Of
much.
course, happy to be here.
Thank you. So happy to have you.